Let's rank some quarterbacks and running backs here on Fantasy Football today. It is Week 17, and let's not give you the obvious guys. And we're running out of obvious guys because players are getting hurt. It's kind of nasty out there. It's championship week. Can't they get the memo that they've got to be on the field for us, for our fantasy teams? So we're going to start by giving 3 quarterbacks. I'm going to have Adam rank them. I'm going to have Jamie rank them. And you, the audience, already had the chance to vote on which one you would start of the 3 on X. But let's get to it. These 3 quarterbacks up for grabs. How would you rank them? Adam, I'll start with you. It's Brock Purdy with the 49ers against the Lions. Kyler Murray, who's been a total disappointment at the Rams. I can't imagine you'd say him first. And then Anthony Richardson is on the list. Let's assume that he's playing. If you want to throw Joe Flacco in there, fine. We'll rank those 4. But how do you rank Purdy, Murray, Richardson / Flacco?
You can't imagine that I would rank Kyler Murray first. Well, you know what, Dave? You can't imagine correctly. I'm going Brock Purdy 1, Anthony Richardson 2 if he plays, and I will say Richardson 3rd if he doesn't play, but Kyler Murray is going to be 3rd here. I've lost faith in Kyler Murray even after a good fantasy performance last week. He still did so little on so many pass attempts in a good matchup, so I just don't have faith in him. He's going to have to run for a touchdown, have a good game, I think. Purdy, I am really hoping he's going to take advantage of this matchup. I hope we get a shootout. It's been pretty ugly, but like last week, he didn't play that well, and he still scored 25 points, Brock Purdy. So I like what I'm seeing from Debo. I think bounce back from Jennings. Kittle's the man. Purdy won with a bullet on this list, then Richardson, then Kyler Murray.
Jamie, your start of the week is Bo Nix this week. How would you rank Bo Nix compared to those other quarterbacks?
Nix is ahead of those guys. I agree with Adam that Purdy is the best of the bunch. Clearly, it's going to be tough to trust Richardson at this point, whether he plays or he doesn't play with the back injury. So as much as I don't want to start Kyler Murray, I would probably consider starting him over Richardson at this point just because I'm concerned that he's not going to be 100%. And if he does go out there and doesn't do very much early in the game, or for whatever reason, if they're trailing, do they go to Flacco just to make sure that Richardson is healthy because they are still alive for the playoffs and they could beat this team just with Jonathan Taylor by himself. So Richardson is definitely going to be 3rd right now.
Show of hands, just give me your hand. Would you start Joe Flacco over Kyler Murray if you knew that Flacco was going to start?
No.
I think I might. I think I really might. I'm nervous about Kyler Murray in that matchup against the Rams. All right, Adam, you have not seen the poll results. Who do you think won the poll between these 3 quarterbacks, and by how much?
We're going Brock Purdy at 52%, Dave.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be. I'm going to say Anthony Richardson at around 41%. Oh, look at that. It's Anthony Richardson. I was off by 2.2 percentage points. Richardson 1, Purdy 2, Kyler Murray 3. People just do not want to trust Kyler Murray. I'm sure if we did this poll on Friday, late Friday, you would see Purdy 1, and then maybe Richardson 2, Kyler Murray 3. Let's move on to some running backs. Here are 3 that I'm surprised are lumped together. Breece Hall, I mean, he has not been great for fantasy over the last month. I think he had 1 touchdown 2 games ago, nothing last week. He just has not looked good for me. He will not be the running back that I rank first, but maybe one of these guys will be, or one of the guys here, Jamie or Adam, will put Breece Hall first. Jerome Ford's on the list. Rico Dowdle's on the list. Adam, who do you like from these 3?
Breece Hall is number 1 for me, followed by Jerome Ford and Rico Dowdle. Dowdle, I just don't want to start. I think it's going to be a tough game for them, and the Eagles' defense has just been so good. The other 2 are tough. I think Breece Hall, you know, if he can get those catches, he's going to probably easily lead this group. Jerome Ford, you know, tough matchup. The Dolphins have been so good. Dorian Thompson-Robinson will probably give Jerome Ford 3 to 4 catches. I think that's going to help him. But I'll go Breece, then Ford, then Dowdle is far behind the other 2.
Do you have Breece first, Jamie?
I do. I have the same order. You know, I think when you look at it, while Jerome Ford is probably a little bit more explosive than Breece Hall right now, just because I don't know if the knee injury has been bothering him, and we've seen Ford have a lot of big plays, not just in this season, but throughout, you know, his short career. Breece Hall's done a good job against the Bills. The matchup's certainly much more in his favor, and he did have 5 catches last week, and I think that's something that could carry over to this game as well, especially if there's going to be a rainy situation in Buffalo, so Aaron Rodgers maybe not challenging down the field as much. We just saw both Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, despite the fumbles for Stevenson, have success running on Buffalo, so as recently as last week, a bad team being able to have success on the ground, and I do think that Ford is going to struggle to run the ball against the Dolphins. Now, to Adam's point, the Dolphins have really struggled with pass-catching running backs lately, 20 receptions to the position in the last 4 games. So 4 or 5 catches, maybe something that saves Jerome Ford. I'm a little nervous to start him, but I think he's certainly better than Rico Dowdle, who's just in a real tough spot with the receiving core being as decimated as it is for the Cowboys and facing a good Eagles run defense.
I'll make the case for Ford. I think he can get the same amount of catches as Breece Hall, and I think he's more explosive than Breece Hall right now. And I could see the Jets falling behind in this game and Aaron Rodgers taking things into his own hands. We've kind of already seen that really over the course of the season where Aaron Rodgers just does what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. And I don't think he wants to hand off to Breece Hall, who didn't even have a play longer than 9 yards last week. I will take the upside with Jerome Ford, but it's a tough call. Adam, who do you think won the poll?
I know Dowdle's going to be last at about 18%. I'm going to go with Jerome Ford at 41%.
Okay, you love that 41%, and I think it's going to be close between Ford and Breece Hall. Let's see if you're right. The poll results are coming. Look how close. This might be the closest poll we've had all year, guys. 0.3 percentage points between Jerome Ford and Breece Hall. So really kind of a coin flip between those two. I've got 3 more running backs to get to. Here they are. They're not pretty. And let's say that this is, let's say it's in half PPR. It's Amir Abdullah against New Orleans. It's Brian Robinson Jr. against the Falcons. And Ramondre Stevenson, he of the fumbles, going up against the Chargers. Adam, how do you rank these 3?
Tough one at the top, but Stevenson is an easy one to be last. I'm going to go Brian Robinson Jr., Amir Abdullah, and Ramondre Stevenson. I don't quite know what to make of Brian Robinson Jr.'s struggles, but I don't think the Falcons are really a matchup to avoid. So I'll go Robinson, then Amir Abdullah, and then Stevenson I definitely am benching.
I've got the same exact order as you. Adam, Jamie, do you have it differently?
No, same order. I think the thing with Robinson is can he be more involved in the passing game? Falcons allow the most receptions to running backs on the season, so it would be great to see him get more than 2 catches. He's got 5 catches in his last 2 games, so 6 targets over that span, and that's without Austin Eckler. But we did see what happened last week where Jeremy McNichols got a little bit more involved. Most of that, I think, had to do with game flow and Robinson dealing with some of the fumble issues. But he should get back on track this week. Weather could be a big issue in Washington, so we could see maybe a little bit more attention being given to Brian Robinson. But the last 2 weeks have been very frustrating for him, not doing well against the Saints 2 games ago, struggling last week against the Eagles. I think that had more to do with the Eagles defense. So hopefully he does have some big plays against this Falcons team.
Adam, do you think the audience agrees with us that Brian Robinson is the top running back of these 3?
No. Yes, with 39% of the vote.
So it's going to be close? You think? I don't think it's going to be very close. I'm going to say like 2/3 of the vote goes to Brian Robinson Jr.
Oh, you're such a cheater.
Oh, look, there it is. 67.1% for Brian Robinson. Amir Abdullah, a distant second. Ramondre Stevenson left in the dust. Let's answer a question from social media. We got time? We got time. It's from Jay Drizzy. Please help pick 2.5 PPR. Cortland Sutton, Jamison Williams, A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley, Malik Neighbors. I don't think you have to worry about those last 2, Jamie. Who do you like from these 2.5 PPR?
I would go with Sutton and A.J. Brown. Hopefully Kenny Pickett does enough to get A.J. Brown going here, but those are my 2 favorites.
When we come back, wide receivers and tight ends to start and sit. We'll see if my clairvoyance continues with the audience polls here on Fantasy Football Today. During the break, we learned that Tony Pollard of the Tennessee Titans did not practice on Friday. Now, this has been standard procedure for him, but good gravy. See if you can get Tyjae Spears. Put him on your bench. If Pollard misses his game this week against Jacksonville, you're looking at a top 12 running back in Tyjae Spears. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. We've got some wide receivers to make some starter sit calls on. I'm going to group them in trios. We're going to rank them. You guys already voted on who you'd want to start. Let's just get to it. And these are non-obvious names. And it used to be that Garrett Wilson was an obvious name. Now I'm not so sure. Now, the rostership says that he's still going to be started in 71%, but let's rank him against some other guys that are getting a lot of attention in fantasy. Khalil Shakir taking on Garrett Wilson's Jets, and Adam Thielen going up against Tampa Bay. Thielen expected to play against the Bucs. Last time he played them, Adam, he had a big game. How do you rank these 3?
Garrett Wilson 1, Adam Thielen 2, Khalil Shakir 3. I still consider Shakir to be a pretty boring but pretty safe 12-ish fantasy point guy in PPR. Thielen has more upside than Garrett Wilson. I believe that. But you do have the coach saying, Coach Brick saying, we got to get Garrett Wilson a little bit more involved. So I'm hoping for that. I will say this, if it's very rainy, if the weather is terrible, I would pivot from Wilson to Adam Thielen. But right now it's Wilson 1, Thielen 2, Shakir 3.
Jamie, anything wrong with Adam's order?
No, I agree. I think the one thing that's interesting for Shakir is, now we're in a really close race for the MVP with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. How much does Allen really want to win the award, and how does he want to go about trying to get himself back if he's not in the front runner spot, back into the front runner spot. So that could help Shakir if they decide they want to be a throwing game and he's going to put up some numbers through the air, because clearly he's the most explosive at this point and safest receiver for the Bills. And he could have had 2 touchdowns in last week's game against Patriots. Ball hit him in the hands, which he typically catches almost everything. He had a couple, tough catches, but he didn't catch them. But yeah, I think Wilson is going to get a squeaky wheel performance here. It's a matter of, again, how the weather will hold up. And Thielen, if he was 100%, I feel a little bit more comfortable with him. He's definitely the second choice. But the fact that he's a little bit banged up right now, for an older receiver that had some hamstring problems earlier this season, still a little bit concerned.
I so badly want to make Adam Thielen number 1 on this list, because Garrett Wilson, Adam talked about it earlier in the show, just hasn't been getting the same type of target share that Devontae Adams has, and I think it's going to continue. I do have Garrett Wilson ranked ahead of Adam Thielen, but if we were guaranteed Adam Thielen to play 4 quarters and get the same type of target shares he's been getting, yeah, I think he could have a better stat line than Garrett Wilson. That's a choice you're going to have to make at home between those 3. For now, I agree, Wilson 1, Thielen 2, Shakir 3, but man, it's close. Do you think it's going to be close in the poll, Adam, between Garrett Wilson and Adam Thielen?
I do. I don't think Shakir will be anywhere near them, but I think it's going to be Garrett Wilson at 40%. I
think it might be somebody else at 41% myself. Oh, it is Adam Thielen. So the audience is with Adam Thielen, 41%. Garrett Wilson close behind, and then Khalil Shakir a distant third. It's going to be close between Thielen and Wilson. I'm telling you, that is a tough call for fantasy managers. Let's get to the next group of 3 wideouts for you guys to rank. Jalen McMillan taking on the Panthers. Jawan Jennings against the Lions. Jameson Williams against the 49ers. Adam, who's your favorite? Who's your least favorite? Who's in the middle?
I like the Jays here, Dave. We got Jawan Jennings, Jalen McMillan, and Jameson Williams. I'd start all of them over Jackson Smith-Njigba for what it's worth.
Nah.
But like I said in the previous segment, I'm expecting a big game from Brock Purdy and just a shootout in that game. So I like all of these guys. Jennings is number 1. I am a little nervous about McMillan because he only gets 6 to 7 targets per game, and they might not throw that much. But I will reluctantly put him 2 ahead of Jameson Williams because the 49ers are so good against wide receivers, and they give up the fewest big plays in the NFL.
Jalen, Jawan, Jameson, Jamie?
It's tough between Jennings and McMillan. I think we could get a huge bounce back game for Jennings, but I like what McMillan has done. And now J.C. Horn's out for the Panthers, so the secondary is even worse for Carolina. So I'm going to ride the hot hand here and think that McMillan has a little bit better game than Jennings. We could always see, as we've seen from Purdy, when he does play well, like for example last week, Jennings did not have a big part of this. They've been trying to feed Deebo Samuel, so I think that continues. Plus, he's got George Kittle. I know that the Lions are great against tight ends. I don't care. You're not stopping George Kittle. So Jennings takes a slight backseat behind McMillan and Jameson Williams. Not a distant third, but he's right there, just third for me.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that all 3 of these wide receivers are like top 30 fantasy options. They all belong in fantasy lineups. And Jameson Williams especially, man, if you ran into one of those Studley Ravens earlier this week, you should put Jameson Williams in your lineup if you've got them, because he's got upside to just be an absolute game wrecker to help your fantasy team bounce back against Lamar Jackson, against Derrick Henry. I've got Jawan Jennings first, Jalen McMillan behind him, and Jameson Williams third. Which Jay do you think the audience voted for, Jadam?
No, he's third for us, but I actually think Jameson Williams is going to take this one at 39.5%.
Yeah, there's no way that Jalen McMillan could win this poll. I don't think it could happen. It's probably going to be one of the other. Psych! They're going with Jamie and Jalen McMillan, and it's not that close. McMillan 1, Jawan Jennings 2, Jameson Williams 3. What does Jameson Williams have to do to win one of these polls? I just do not know. Let's move on to our last group of wide receivers. We'll have some tight ends after this one, but we've got Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Myers, and Deebo Samuel. Another 49er makes a group of 3, Adam. Is Deebo first for you?
He is first for me, actually. And then I go Jacoby Myers and then Calvin Ridley. With Ridley, though, very sneaky, good DFS play, wants to stick it to his former team. But I like what we're seeing from Debo, and I like the carries that we're seeing from Debo. 3 to 5 carries in 3 straight games for Debo Samuel. So he's going to be one for me. Then it's Myers. Then it's Ridley.
Jamie, how do you see it?
I'll go Myers. A matchup is good against the Saints. I know he's been bad the last 2 games. I'm going to throw out the game when he played with Desmond Ridder against the Falcons. So I think he will do better with Aiden O'Connell. Debo will be second. Those 2 guys between Debo and Ridley are close. Ridley has talked about having a revenge game against the Jaguars. Did get 12 targets against them the last time. Didn't do very much with it. So hopefully he has a little bit better performance with Mason Rudolph. That was with Will Levis. So I do think all 3 of these guys have a chance to be in a similar range. But Jacoby Myers, if he scores for the first time in forever, he could have a big game here, but he only has 2 touchdowns on the season. So that's going to hurt Myers a little bit.
I think Myers is the safest of the 3. I'll put him at the top, and I think he can get 9+ targets. He's done that. I think he did it in 4 straight games before last week. So Myers would be number 1. Ridley would be number 2 for me. And then Debo Samuel, he just doesn't get the same type of target volume that Ridley does, that Jacoby Myers does. And with Isaac Guerrero back, I don't know if he's going to get 5 carries like he has been the last couple of weeks. He will be 3rd for me. So a little bit of a different order for everybody, I think. Adam, what do you think the audience voted for?
Well, first of all, I want to definitely give a shout out to Jamie for that Frozen reference there. We know you're an Anna guy. I am going to actually go Calvin Ridley. I'm going to say 39.7%.
Oh, that's interesting. Hey, you nailed it. 39 point. Good. Finally, Adam, you get one of these right. My goodness, I thought I was going to be the one to get them all right. All right, let's wrap up with a tight end trio. Who do you like best from these 3 tight ends? Tucker Kraft, Hunter Henry, or Chigo Okonkwo?
Tucker Kraft for me, number 1. Hunter Henry, 2. Chigo Okonkwo, 3. I am assuming Christian Watson is not going to play. That has been good for Tucker Kraft. I'm also assuming, the BetMGM prop was 32.5 pass attempts for Jordan Love. That's a lot for him. And Jordan Love usually has a big game when he throws that many passes. So Tucker Kraft will be there right along with him. So he's 1, then Henry, then Chig.
Jamie, do you see it the same way?
I like all 3 of these guys in a similar range. I'm going to go Okonkwo 1. I like the 21 targets the last 2 games. I like the matchup against Jacksonville. I'm going to go Henry 2 and Kraft 3, but they're going to all be like 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, 10 right in my rankings, once I get to final adjustment heading into Saturday. But I think they all have a chance to do really well this week. As Adam said, Watson not being there helps Kraft. I do think that Henry has got the toughest matchup of the 3, but tight ends that have gotten targets against the Chargers have done better more times than not. That just makes sense. And he's going to be a go-to guy for Drake May once again. And look, Okonkwo is just in such a good spot right now with what he's been doing with Mason Rudolph.
I love the spot for Okonkwo as well, but I think Tucker Kraft has the better chance to score, especially with Christian Watson sideline. He would be my number 1. Chigo Okonkwo would be number 2 for me. Hunter Henry would be 3rd. Adam, don't look, don't cheat. No one wants to see a cheater on the show. Who do you think won the audience poll?
So the producers did tell me the answer, but I am going to tell you, before they told me, I was going to say Chigo Okonkwo, but not by the margin that it is currently at. I was going to say like 39% Chig.
Yeah, I'm thinking recency bias is going to play out here to the tune of 55.7%. Oh, look how off I was.
You can't even get it right.
I didn't know. I may have done that on purpose. All right, Chigo Okonkwo wins the audience poll, far and away ahead of Tucker Kraft and Hunter Henry. They're buying into those targets just like Jamie Eisenberg is. Let's answer a question before we go to break. Adam, I'm going to give this one to you since you're not going to join us for the BetMGM Player Prop Challenge after the break. Should Joel start Matthew Stafford on Saturday or Aaron Rodgers on Sunday?
I want to go with Aaron Rodgers. If you're worried about the weather, then go with Stafford. But I just think Rodgers is going to have to throw a lot more than Stafford is, and he'll get his 20 fantasy points, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I would agree with you. But if you're going to have to make a decision on this on Saturday, obviously. If the forecast in Orchard Park, New York is going to be really ugly, I think Stafford is the pivot because I worry about the weather impacting Aaron Rodgers. They're saying there's going to be heavy rain there. That's why we're concerned. When we come back, Sportsline's Mackenzie Brooks joins us for the BetMGM Player Prop Challenge. Don't go anywhere.